The nature of your offense against your very own sister is shocking. So what brought you to that crime?
I honestly still don't know to this day why I did it. I was blacked out when it happened, which is why I got a JRI bed instead of jail time in the first place. So I fully admit to that crime, but the main problem that led up to it is my addiction.
And you heard correctly, his own sister, right? A vulnerable family member. And guess what the judge and DA did? They said, don't worry about it. We'll give you probation. Now, he violated his probation, and that's the only reason that we are here today. Because of that, he was locked up in prison and now up for parole. You will be shocked by his answer, shocked by what he says, but I am still always most surprised by the absolute ineptitude and lack of proper sentencing done by the prosecution and judges in these cases. Now, with that, let's jump in.
John Atkins, 422829.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration for a fraud application by John Atkins, 422829. He is serving a sentence of 9 years of execution suspended after 2 years, 6 months with 3,420 days of probation for violation of probation, sexual assault third degree. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of December 27, 2024. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and showed the offender has completed the following programs: sex offender short track and voices, utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system. Possible considering of falls in the very high range. There's also a 99 score of the 2, which falls in the low to modest range. This is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
Does that mean read my letter?
Yes.
Thank you guys to the BOPP. I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to see you. In the past 2 years of incarceration, I have been able to think more clearly about life and what you're supposed to do with it than I have in my entire existence. I have never had this much time sober and away from the things that changed me from the person my parents raised me to be. I have also been able to realize how short life really is and how much of it I have wasted. I fully admit to my crimes and my addiction, and I realize that I have hurt way more than just myself. I have hurt my family, and I have hurt my older sister the most. I know that I can never take back what I did, but I can spend the rest of my life trying to make up for it. To do that, I need to remain sober and become a functioning member of society. I have plans on going to school to become a diesel mechanic. I'm going to be talking to a therapist to help with my depression and anxiety. I will fully comply with parole if granted it, and then the rest of my probation that I have left. I know it's a privilege, but I'm praying that the BOPP will grant me parole because I'm currently homeless. So going to a halfway house would be a huge help in setting me on the right track to succeed, as opposed to finishing my sentence and having to start in a homeless shelter, which is a bad environment to start in for an addict.
All right, Mr. Atkins, thank you for that opening statement. We're going to take turns asking you questions, and I'll begin. So tell me about your support system.
My main support system is my family. Luckily, I still have them, even though, I've done a lot of wrong to them. But, they believe that family is everything and you don't give up on family.
You are truly blessed, sir.
Yes, I am.
The nature of your offense against your very own sister is shocking. So what brought you to that crime?
I honestly still don't know to this day why I did it. I was blacked out when it happened, which is why I got a JRI bed instead of jail time in the first place. So I fully admit to that crime, but the main problem that led up to it is my addiction. And I realized that fully.
What are you addicted to?
Everything. Alcohol, crack, cocaine, heroin. I've tried, other stuff, pills.
We're not.
You could say that.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. So you've done treatment programs at least 5 times out in the community?
I'm sorry, say that again?
By my count, it looks like you've done treatment out in the community for substance use at least 5 times.
Yes.
So why do you think you've been unsuccessful managing your addiction?
I am a very impulsive person. And I believe that's what leads up to my using, because I don't think about my actions before I act upon them. I just jump at the first thought I have. But in the past 2 years that I've been sitting here, I've had a lot of time to think about that and how much it affects me in negative ways.
And what are you thinking about how you're going to manage that?
Like I said in my letter, I plan on going to see a therapist. I will definitely be going back to AA, NA. I've gone to meetings in on and off since I was about maybe 20. I definitely lean on my family for support, because they always tell me, if you need to talk about anything or you need help with anything, call us. And instead of just like ignoring that or not counting on them and just doing what I want to do, I'm definitely going to try to lean on them and use them for support.
I do hope you'll make that choice. You're most fortunate to have them in your life. You completed the short track sex offender program.
Yes.
I'm wondering, what did you get from that program if you still don't know why you violated your sister?
I mean, there's boundaries to everything in life. And I mean, leading up to my offense, that was not something I ever thought I would end up doing in life. It's not something I think about. It's not who I am. So taking the treatment for sex offenders and whatnot is still like hard to deal with, but obviously like no means no. That's it. There are boundaries.
It's I think you were raised right, as you said, so I think you always knew that no meant no. The only other takeaway being boundaries is concerning, because you say it's not who you are, but you did this crime. And in order to be confident that you will not reoffend in a similar manner against someone you really have to unpack and come to some understanding of why you did it. I'm glad for you, Mr. Adkins, that you don't deny it. When you had the problem sexual behavior treatment evaluation in March of this year, you said it happened. I was severely under the influence. I don't deny it. And that's a good starting place, but you've got to figure out the why. So moving on, you were granted parole or probation, excuse me, as a consequence for the sexual assault third. And your probation began in February of 2021. And your first violation of that probation was 97 days into it. And, that's a little surprising. Probation tends to give a lot of chances and try lots of graduated sanctions.
Yep.
So within 3 months, you were back in court. So what I have, I'm going to ask you why you were not compliant with probation. In what ways were you not compliant? Let's start with that.
I relapsed and went on the run because I was scared to give a dirty urine. Which honestly, if I'd given the dirty urine, I probably would have gotten another chance. And going on the run was probably the worst option. But I mean, hindsight's 20/20.
Well, before all of that, you were violating your curfew. You were going to a public park, which you were restricted from doing. You were spending time with convicted felons. You were staying out overnight in unapproved places. And you ended up in lockdown in the sober house because of your cocaine, fentanyl, heroin binge that lasted 5 days. So, there's a lot to unpack there. It really looked like you just had no intention of complying with the supervision and failing to appreciate, the fact that your sentence of probation really was a gift, given the heinous nature of your crime and the harm that was done. You've mentioned AA and a therapist. What else is part of your relapse prevention plan? Because I'm deeply concerned that you have a drug and alcohol score of 4, 5 being the highest, and you've not taken a program there in DOC.
I got a referral to addiction services, and the person I talked to had said that because I was eligible for parole, he didn't want to put me into tier 4 and then have you guys come see me and get granted parole and leave when there's like someone else with more time that could use the bed.
I can tell you, Mr. Adkins, there isn't a panel in this parole board that would grant somebody discretionary parole without making it contingent that you complete the tier 4 program, especially with your drug history. So none of that is relevant or makes any sense.
Well,
so again, my question to you was about your relapse prevention plan.
What I'm going to do if I'm granted parole?
No. When you go out into the community, how are you going to prevent resuming your drug and alcohol use?
I don't want to use drugs anymore. As you know, obviously, I've been to rehab a bunch of times. What I really have to do is use the tools that they've taught me. Call somebody, really rely on NA, AA, find a sponsor, someone I can talk to, stay away from people that I know are going to get me in trouble and cause me to further relapse. Find a hobby, something that can keep me
pro-socially engaged is what you're thinking.
Say it again.
Pro-socially engaged. You find a hobby, you find other people who enjoy the same hobby, and you spend time doing those things together without drugs and alcohol.
Yes.
Having interests in your life that enrich you, maybe even teach you something. Have you ever heard of 90 in 90?
Yes, 90 meetings in 90 days. I have yet to do it.
Right. Is that an aspiration you have?
Like I said, I plan on getting a sponsor, and I know that they may. I've never had a sponsor before, and I know that from experience of being in the meetings and hearing it, that when you get a sponsor, they make you do 90. So, like I said, I will be getting a sponsor, and they will most likely make me do the 90 and 90.
I'm not sure where you're getting your information, but it isn't accurate, sir. You make a commitment to yourself walking out the door of prison that you're going to do 90 meetings in 90 days. It's not something a sponsor imposes upon you, but it's something you realize for your own benefit and to create some stability in your own recovery and develop a recovery network. You immerse yourself in meetings all around the state or your region until you find a home group and you get exposure to people that you think might be willing to sponsor you, somebody you connect with. Have you ever worked the 12 steps, Mr. Atkins?
No.
Do you know what they are?
The steps individually?
No, as a concept.
Yeah, I know that there's steps that you got to work through that help you to maintain sobriety and learn better of yourself.
It's the foundation on which NA and AA are built. It's not about just attending meetings, drinking bad coffee, and listening to other people talk, but it's actually about working on yourself, sir. And with the time remaining on your sentence, I encourage you to identify the 12 steps and get busy. Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Atkins, I also share the concerns around your readiness to kind of really deal with your addiction. I mean, I hear your words. I hear what you're saying. I don't see a plan yet on your behalf that really puts you out there in a place where you have the recovery network set up for yourself, and you're kind of sick because your addiction was pretty significant, and basically you've said this whole situation was related to your addiction and blacking out. And if you're at the point of blacking out already, we're looking at a very serious condition. And so I'm not sure that I'm hearing yet. And I'm hearing, that about NA, about AA, and you know some of the structure related to that modality. But I'm not really hearing that you're set up yet. So I'm kind of struggling with that. And I want you to know that. I don't really have any additional questions for you. I think a lot of questions my colleagues already asked you. Okay, but I want you to know I'm struggling with that.
Panel member Barry has no questions, so we're going to move into deliberation. So just please give us a few minutes. So Mr. Atkins is back on a violation of probation for an extremely serious sexual assault against a vulnerable victim, family member. He was graced with a probation sentence for that crime, and he was resoundingly unsuccessful right off the bat on probation. So he comes back before us with a 9-year sentence with 2.5 years to serve. He scores very high for his risk to reoffend, and that is no doubt connected to his abuse of substances. Despite completing the short track program, he is unable to explain to himself why he committed such an egregious violation of a vulnerable family member. He has somewhat limited work history, and he completed 2 programs this period of incarceration, unfortunately, not one of them being a substance abuse program. He indicated from the Voices program that he had no recall, and what he got out of the short track program was remarkably limited. I honestly do not have Mr. Atkins granted to discretionary parole today. I think he needs a tier program. I know he's done multiple rounds of treatment in the community. There's something going on for him that he really needs to unpack if he's going to make the choice to live his life clean and sober. Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would also agree. I am not supporting the discretion today for basically many of the same reasons you have just outlined. And furthermore, further to that, I think he needs to just really begin to work on how he's going to structure his relapse plan on the outside, because I just don't see anything really solidly built there.
Member Barry.
I had Mr. Atkins denied as well. I wanted him to complete a tier program, but I'm not opposed to having him return. He doesn't have any disciplinary infractions, and that does show that he's at least able to comply, and perhaps a rehear will give him some incentive to really go back and focus on his recovery and get a true solid plan in place for those 3,420 days probation.
While I appreciate where you're coming from, he is end of sentence. It'll probably by then be mid to late April, February. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
so little time. And so I wasn't in favor of a rehear. Where are you?
I didn't have him coming back either. That was too short a period of time as well.
Can we go over denial reasons? I had poor performance on community release, inadequate program participation, and inadequate release plan.
What are you just saying? Last year.
Thank you.
I mean, I also had poor performance on community release. I guess we could go with that, in nature and circumstance.
I never had community release.
In the matter of John Atkins, inmate number 422829, there is motion to deny parole for the following reasons: inadequate program participation and evidence of offender change, inadequate release plan, and his poor performance on probation. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Parole is denied.
Thank you.
The word unpack was thrown in a few times in this hearing, and I wish that I could properly unpack this hearing for you, but I can't. There is no information available on this case. And normally I would have Lady Holly or Sir Richard do like the deeper dive searching stuff. They can sometimes find some newspaper articles but I couldn't find anything. And so I'll just have to talk off the cusp, off of my emotions, which is, again, I think just a showcase of how pathetic the system is. We don't know, but what we do, again, the situation, biological, half sister, adopted, we don't know. So we'll assume the worst, biological, and then we hear vulnerable family members. So does that mean she's vulnerable in what way? Is she handicapped? Is she mentally disabled? Is she and this is the bits of information that the system, they don't really want us to know, right? They don't want us to know when they give this poor I'll use the word Baba Angel Aladdin. I've been watching some of his stuff, True Justice Crime Warriors YouTube channel. So I'm stealing his line. If you're familiar with this channel, this Bubba Angel Aladdin, just a break. You should get probation, which he of course immediately violates. And I don't know in what world you can SA a vulnerable family member, your sister, and not get prison time. And then you find out his family supports him. Blood is thicker than water. And it's like, no. Not in this case. It ain't thicker than water. All that means is that the second he gets out, he's going to be back in a position where he can harm again, because they're probably like birds of a feather flock together, and they probably, are just not going to protect. And we've seen in these type of cases, they blame the victim. The family blames the victim for everything and all their hardships. It's horrible. But again, I have nothing to add here. The one thing that I did like from the parole board, which we never see, is they actually ask questions. They said, do you practice tell us about the 12 steps. Like they actually did that. They dove in to show that he actually learned nothing. Zero, zilch. Imagine, and again, for those of you who say, man, you don't understand, you don't have empathy. Imagine if this is the person who truly, he's blacked out and he did something and he's in prison. He's at his lowest low. Wouldn't he want to get help? Wouldn't he want to understand the 12 steps? Wouldn't he want to do something while he's in prison to better himself? But no, he doesn't give a flying F. There's no empathy there. There's nothing. There's no insight. There's no wanting to improve himself. And to think that a judge gave him probation. And so he violates his probation. He goes to prison. And he has a maximum sentence of 2 years and 6 months. He's going to be getting out March 8th, 2026, which is right around the corner. And that's it. And I wonder even how long he has to register for. I really do. It's this weak on crime, pathetic system that we have in place. But who can bother? Let's just sweep it under the rug. There won't even be news about it. And at least the parole board dispatched with him. But again, you have to remember that it was a judge and a DA that thought it was a wonderful idea to not only give him a slap on the wrist sentence, but to give probation. Oh, what did he learn? He learned no means no. The insanity of that statement when your victim is your sister. Vulnerable sister. And yeah, with that, I'll let you go.
You were granted parole or probation, excuse me, as a consequence for the sexual assault third. And your probation began in February of 2021. And your first violation of that probation was 97 days into it.